I have a few habits that I've been trying to kick over the past few months. Some success, some failures. And in the process of doing so, I have learned a lot. And I've learned a lot about myself. And I think one thing that has helped me a lot was changing my perspective on certain things. I've tried to reframe it instead of something inherently bad that's making me a bad person. I just try to reframe it as a challenge that needs to be overcome. And instead of approaching it with a victim mindset, approaching it more like a video game where these are the objectives or the challenges that I have to overcome to get to the next level. And what that's done for me is it's helped me disassociate myself, from these habits or the problems that I'm trying to fix in my life. And as a result of doing so, when I do mess up, I don't beat myself up over it so much. In addition to that, what it's also helped with, disassociating myself from my problems or even goals. I'm more aware in the moment. It's no longer, oh, I'm bored or I'm feeling a little bored working on something, and then boom, next thing I know, I'm on my phone for half an hour or something, right? It's more like when I feel these feelings of boredom, irritability, whatever, temptation to do whatever, I become aware of it. And one thing that I've learned is just try to be aware of yourself and your emotions at all time. Obviously throughout your day-to-day life, but I think especially in those moments where you feel that temptation, you feel the urge. And even as you do whatever habit you're trying to kick, still be aware in those moments of how you feel, what it's giving you, blah, blah, blah. I think where I saw the quickest improvement on this is cutting down my social media usage and consumption. I would be the first person to say that, man, it's pretty funny and it can feel really good when you're just scrolling Instagram and you come across this reel and funny. Super funny, making you legit laugh out loud. The reels where you send it to 4 or 5 different people, and then you take a look at the comments, and it's just like icing on the cake. I know that feels good. I know that can be very I don't know, just release a lot of dopamine. And so let's just say when I have the urge or I come across even a super funny reel and I'm in those moments, I still try to be aware of my emotional state, what I'm doing, and the reason why I'm doing it. It doesn't, I wouldn't say like it helps completely kick the habit, but I feel like it helps give me a lot more control over it. Now realizing, okay, I'm kind of just scratching an itch, and is that itch really even there? I've even tried to apply this to all areas of my life, or as many that I can be aware of, and see what itch am I trying to scratch when doing certain activities, habits, addictions, whatever you want to call it, right? And a lot of times, reflecting on that, come back to one of my favorite questions, which is, why do I want the things that I want? Why in this moment do I want to go find a funny reel? Why in this moment am I craving something sugary? Why in this moment am I doing this or am I doing that? I think as a result of me doing so, it has allowed me to be a lot more intentional. But at the same time, I have found that it can be a double-edged sword at times. Because, yes, I'm, trying to be aware of things that I'm doing. But in the same instance, it's like there's a time and place where things are okay. And again, another thing that I've learned, where it's your ego, it's not a bad thing. There's a reason why we have it. It's just when the ego is in control, and especially when it's in control and we don't even realize it, that's when it can become an issue. And that brings, honestly, a sense of relief. There was a stage in my whole self-improvement journey, whatever you may want to call it, where I was like, damn, am I never going to be able to do anything that I like? I found that I was depriving myself of things, and was treating myself almost like you can't ever do anything that makes you feel good. You can't ever do anything that makes you happy. And my life freaking sucked. And ironically enough, it was in those moments where I was trying to deprive myself and abstain from any type of external stimulation and external relief, I guess you could say. that's where I feel like I struggled the most. And that's when I feel like I did not enjoy my life the most. I was not treating myself like somebody that I am caring for. Instead, it was almost more like self-punishment. Ooh, sun is straight in my face. Hopefully it's good lighting. Windshield is definitely going to break one of these days. These rocks are always hitting it. So, to bring this back full circle, and we'll just stick with the social media example. It took a mixture of awareness, self-compassion, and purpose, I would say, to where my social media usage is probably the lowest it's been since I started consuming social media. And, the awareness comes from, again, like I said, being aware of the ego and how it may be in control, and how a lot of times not realizing we are actively participating in the addiction or the habit, excuse me, in the very habit that we are trying to kick. Now tying it into the self-compassion and purpose, it was one, not depriving myself of it, but more or less saying, okay, you can have it, you can do these things, right? You can go on social media as long as you're in control of it, and you're doing it at a time and place where you have allowed yourself to do so. Then the purpose, which I think helps even more, is then from I think that purpose helps especially when the urges are there. Let's just say I allowed myself an hour a day at 7 o'clock at night. It's not exactly what I'm following, but let's just say an hour a day at 7 o'clock at night to scroll social media. There is the not depriving myself, the self-compassion, like, okay, you can be aware that too much of this may not be good. However, though, it's not like this is something that you cannot handle. Maybe that's the best way to put it. So what we're going to do is, you can't handle in the sense of when you're not aware of it and you're just mindlessly doing it, you could spend all day, every day doing it, and life will pass you by. Then the self-compassion, okay, you can have it, but from, this time or this time or this set amount a week. And now the purpose part is realizing what I may be sacrificing by continuing to partake in this habit. Okay, if I'm going to spend 3 hours a day scrolling social media, that may not be 3 exact hours of, focused work, but it might be an hour. And then over the course of a year, whatever timeline you want to put it, okay, this is what I'm giving up. And I found that when I can keep those things in mind, my reason why, still giving myself grace, but most importantly, just being aware of what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, that's what has helped me the most as I try to refrain from things that I know are not serving me, as well as continue to build good habits that will help support me and bring me closer to my goals. The bonus part, the part that I did not necessarily expect, was when these habits, and I guess we could just say bad habits, right? When these bad habits are in the process of getting removed, I've saw how that space automatically gets filled. Maybe not automatically, but it's easier for that space to get filled with good stuff. It hasn't been, okay, I don't want to do anything. It's now made things that I did not find as enjoyable or that I would procrastinate on before. It makes those things now easier to do and honestly somewhat more pleasurable. I think the best example I can give is meditating. I've now found my default when I have an extra 20, 30 minutes to kill. I wouldn't say default because it's still something I struggle with. But I have found instead of it being like 9 out of 10 times I have the opportunity to meditate, I won't. It's more like 5 out of 10 times, maybe even 6. But for sure, like 5 out of the 10 times I can meditate, I do now. Do I want to get to that 10 out of 10? 100%. But it is important that I keep in mind 1 to 5 is still a pretty good improvement. And yeah, you want to get from 5 to 10, but you got to get to 5 first before you get to 10. And you got to make sure you don't go back down from 5 to keep on your journey to making it to those 10 out of 10 times. So yeah, I got to realize that there's still, progress to be made. But, reflect and be proud of the fact that there is still change being made. It's super important to not forget what you've done, where you've came from, and how far you've come. Like no matter how far off that ideal destination may be, no matter how far that mountaintop may be. So I feel like when I don't take the time and reflect on like the good things that I've done, it's very easy to slip. So easy to slip. To rationalize, and when you're feeling shitty in some weird way, like you're gonna do things that keep making you feel shitty. Maybe not necessarily in the short term, but it's like what you're doing isn't gonna make you feel any better. It's not really gonna change much. And so as I continue to work on these things, I have to remind myself that it is a marathon. stay in my own lane and just make sure that like I stop and look at the scenery along the way of becoming.